Let's talk about a potential Vanguard ban list. If you still need any Vanguard cards, go to 50cards.shop and use the code Solemn. I have a link in the description. So now this is super weird to me because it feels like just yesterday that I was doing a ban list prediction and that we got a ban list. Maybe I've like time warped, but I feel like it's just happened already. And now there's like this product strategy meeting thing announcement, let's say on the 14th, I thought. So like next week, which is happening before BCS Germany and BCS Chicago, I think. But if that's a Japanese list, it won't be for English yet. If anything, it's probably like going to be like, oh, it's activating next week. If there is a ban list though. Because even that, like, I'm not so sure of. It feels so quick, but people are talking about it as if it's definitely happening. So I don't know. But it seems like people think there's a ban list. And it's probably not affecting Germany and Chicago yet. It might not even affect Spain and whichever other BCS is in the same weekend either. So it's going to be like a mid-season-ish ban list if there is one. But again, very odd to me because it feels like we just had one. With that being said, of course, it's free content, so why wouldn't I just talk about it? So let's do this, as always, format by format. We're gonna start with the overdress format, the standard format. Honestly, it's really hard to predict. I don't feel like the meta is super out of whack. I think you could kind of argue that Kyrie is floating on top of stuff, but then sometimes it just falls apart because a bunch of people are playing Gravidia and the deck doesn't really like getting stuff retired. And of course, Gravidia can have random auto wins. I see some people also complaining about Gravidia, even though if you think about it, it's not really the best deck. So overall, I don't know. I don't think they're going to do anything in Overdress. I don't remember if they already put Kyrie on a watch list, but if they didn't yet, that might happen. Though again, Lyrical Monasterio, the new set, is going to come out, and so I don't know if they really want to hit it like pretty close to that release. Again, really hard to say, but in my opinion, in Overdress, once again, I don't think anything is going to happen. Then we get into V. Now V, I am actually very surprised by. The Clan Collection, like I said, I really liked. I did like a current state of Vanguard video and I explained how I really liked how they nailed the power level. Like previous clan collections were very weak, and this feels like the first time in a long time that the clan collections actually have impact. Not too much, I think, but not too little either. So I'm very happy with that. With that being said, does anything break? Now, one important thing to note is that generally I'm not a fan of bans hitting decks right when they come out. Because obviously, like, sometimes the deck is too strong, but do you really want to make it to a point where people can't even play decks they just bought? I don't think so. The only exception, of course, is when that new card completely breaks the game. Like with Zazan in the past. Some people could also bring up like the Luard, the main thing back when they had Bendy and the Superior Ride. Those are exceptions. I do understand emergency ban lists then, because it's more so like an oversight from the design team rather than actually, oh, we made this powerful as hell and wanted you to buy it and then ban it instantly, you know? So that's more so an oversight thing than a thing they really wanted to happen. Does Clan Collection have anything that's too strong? Well, there's some really strong things in there. I personally feel like Steam Maiden might have that cat and that grade 2 together is like a +3 by itself. I feel like if you put that engine into literally any deck, it would automatically become tier 1. Like, you could print clones of this for any clan and all those clans would instantly become like hyper viable. Of course, if you do it for all of them, then none of them would be. If you give this engine to any clan, boom, the clan's viable. Because why the hell would a clan not become viable after going +3 whenever they activate a grade 2? That is insane. Now, that doesn't mean I think they will ban that, obviously. Again, the set just came out. I think people should have their fun with Steam Maidens and so forth. But from a future design perspective, I can see that breaking somehow. Now, with that being said, I don't actually think that the way to fix that is hitting those cards. They just came out, and by itself, a +3 while being insane isn't breaking the game. What I think is a much more likely thing to break the game, however, is certain guard restricts that we're starting to see impact V more and more. And then I'm more so looking at two cards. Looking at Hope on Damp and looking at Colossus. Colossus being the thing used in Gear Chronicle. So Hope on Damp, while Sharot, you know, isn't a crazy deck right now, it's definitely in the top tiers, let's say. It's definitely on the bottom though of those top tiers because it has like this fragility issue. It has this inconsistency issue. But Hope on Damp as a whole is when activated, you win. And Colossus, when you have Steam Maidens doing their thing with double force marker, it also just reads you win. I think this is also why they banned guard restricts like this in the past. We saw Violence Franger from Grand Blue getting hit. We saw Variance Hardleg from Dark Irregular being hit. We saw Gavrael Hamiel stuff getting hit. Certain guard restricts are simply way too powerful for the tools that V has access to. 2. In Premium, you can usually get away with weirder guard restricts because G Guardians exist. And Rollock exists so you don't die on grade 2 either. But mostly the G Guard part is like really important. So in Premium, you can get away with some more unfair guard restrict because you also have more unfair guarding. That's not the case in V. In V, a lot of these weird guard restrict cards that last the entire turn or are just like hyper impactful on their own are literal auto wins that you can't do anything about. So I do think it would be wise to have a watch list for these types of cards. Now, that doesn't mean that the coming list, I think they will be hit, of course. I think they will still want these new cards to have their whole thing going, and the guard restricts aren't actually new cards. But I do think from like a future design perspective, I can see these types of guard restricts being watch listed, and then gradually, whenever one, goes too hard, they just hit it, as they already did with variants hard like in Violence Franger and Hamiel. Beyond that, I do think it would also be good for a Percival to have the restriction where it can only be used in a bluish flame deck. I think the high rolls of like, haha, I opened the one-off, it's been too much. You can say, oh, but what about Holy Shine? That also makes it consistent, and you would be right. So again, like I think Percival in like decks that aren't bluish flame has run its course. I think people do not like to play against Gurgit, who just goes, yeah, I opened the one-off, guess you die. And so I think that was just an oversight once again. They were choice restricted in the past for a very good reason, and I think it's just time to do that overall. This way you can also put the card back to 4, and now actual bluish flame decks have full access to their bluish flame cards. I don't actually know if that would be too powerful, but I think it would at least be more fair. You don't necessarily want your Spectral Duke and Gurgit decks to be best deck because of a bluish flame card, while the bluish flame deck can barely use it like fully. Beyond that though, I don't really expect much in the V department just yet. I think the clan collection is a breath of fresh air for V. Doesn't necessarily warrant having instant hits just yet. We'll have to see what's like actually problematic, though I do have to say once again, the format does feel very dice rolly. Some of these clan collection decks are so good going first, together with Gurgit already being insane going first, that the going first advantage is back with a vengeance. Not that it was ever like truly gone, but now it's like really back. And so that's still something to keep in mind. Now finally for Premium, and I think this is probably the hottest issue, we have, I feel, at least 2 decks that need to be absolutely blasted out of the sky instantly. I'm not even talking about, oh, but you didn't get to play with it in a tournament. I don't care. It is about, just health of the format wise. I think Mystery Flare Dragon needs to just straight up be banned. My main concern is that I don't think Japan will do it, because Japan, as you know, is usually a bit behind on the Premium format because they don't have nearly as many big events as we do for Premium, and so all these like issue decks don't show up as quickly. This is why usually the actual solutions to format issues have to come from the English side. So Mystery Flare Dragon, just ban it. I don't care. Some people, but what if we just won, or what if we just this, or what? I don't care. Just ban it. Nothing is gained from keeping extra turn cards in the game. Now you could say, but what about Heritage? Heritage is like a turn 5 thing, and like even back then it was insane, but now the game has sped up to a point where Heritage is just really fair. You were also forced into Heritage, which was like just a shit card because it didn't do anything beyond that, whereas now you can literally just Shlishma off your MFD turns. That's insane. The deck is really unfair. It sometimes literally just goes, okay, you don't get to play, GG, I win. It almost feels like a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, which is insane. Now, it is still a bricky mess, however, because like it's very hard to go X1 with this deck in a tournament setting. It's not up to you. It's up to the gods. It's up to just roll the die and pray you high roll every single game, and boom, you got your top. And did you play well? Who cares? Like that's what this deck is. MFD is just a sacky high roll deck, and again, I don't think anyone that's like actually competitive likes these types of decks, because worse players get rewarded, luckier players get rewarded, and skill doesn't really matter when these types of decks are running rampant. Now, of course, like skill matters in the sense that you still increase your topping odds, but some games you will literally just auto lose to stuff like this. So Mystery Flare, ban it, but I'm afraid Bushi won't. Now, what Bushi might hit, however, is Ripples, because we've seen Ripples at least also doing really well in the Japanese side. So they know that, first of all, Ripples is likely the best deck right now, and secondly, it's already dominating in Japan. So we know this. And what we also know is that Odysseus already has been a broken card in the past. So it is much harder, I feel, to get over the hurdle, if I'm like being Bushiroad right now, of re-hitting Odysseus, because they already know the card is prone to being a bannable issue card. So yeah, simply ban Odysseus. I don't think it is wise to go like, yeah, but what if we limit it to 2? It's like, no, then you can just still get lucky and find it, and you have like revivers to reuse it. Like, I know what you're trying to do, but no, no. The only other solution I could see is putting Genovius to 1, and at that point you are simply able to ride another Excel creator and then Odysseus that Genovius out to have an extra Excel marker without necessarily being able to spam into a billion. But in some way, that type of high roll deck needs to go, because once again, if Ripple like goes first and they hit their entire high roll, they have a billion Excel markers, it's borderline impossible to get over that high roll. Now, another thing that needs to be banned is over triggers, and I'll say that again and again. I don't think I need to bring the arguments again. Like, it's impossible to win this argument because you're wrong if you're for them. So just ban those as well. And then it's also potentially good to hit Naru. I don't think right now they're an issue deck because, well, Ripple and MFD are just like fucking cracked. So it is what it is. Those are just gonna run rampant regardless. I know some people will also say like, oh, but what about BCS Georgia? Ripple didn't do so hot. I don't think one event is enough to say that the deck is bad or something like that. I don't think it was a case of being overhyped. A random shit happens, you know. I think that was an anomaly, but we'll see what the rest of the season brings. Overall though, it doesn't really matter necessarily if it's like the best broken tier 0 deck. What matters is that it relatively reliably high rolls you before you get to play, and so it'll still cost you like a bunch of rounds for like no reason with 0 input. But despite that though, I do think the deck is absolutely insane. So I think it should be hit regardless of, you know, one event. Like if you looked at BCS Georgia and think, oh, so this is the meta, then you think NLK is unironically one of the best decks. NLK is a good deck, but it's not Ripple. It's not MFD. And so you shouldn't take like one tournament to make assumptions about how good decks are. But yeah, I think Naru should probably get a hit because once you take care of the actual real threats in the meta right now, this deck will become pretty insane. I don't know what the hit should be. I think on one hand, it could maybe be like Stunverse to 1 together with a choice restrict with Exterminate or something along those lines. At least that way, you still have the Exterminate playstyle, which is already really good. Like you can go into Eradicator Sweep Command, wipe their front row, draw a billion cards, give your front row a billion, have those restand, you have your strong G guards, you have your solid early game. Like Erad will still be a really good deck. You will just no longer have the weird auto wins that Stunverse can provide after you use it multiple times. Because like the issue is never the first Stunverse. Even though it like hurts, losing your field, losing your drop zone, binding 1 or 2 cards from hand, I get it, but it can be played around. And then also after that one is gone, the 1 was enough. There is no more like, oh, and now you bind 8 more and you bind 5 from your hand. Like the second and the third are usually like the disgusting auto wins. And so I think at 1 it'll be fine. But again, that's more so a worry for later, I feel. I think the much bigger issue right now is Mystery Flare and Ripple. And of course over triggers. So that's all. Hope you found this interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And as always, if you still need any Vanguard cards, go to 50cards.shop, link in the description, and use code Solemn for a discount. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.